readers. Welcome to Vidarbha Literary Festival, arguably India's first non-fiction literary festival and the largest in central India. I am Sai Deshpande, your host for today. At VLF, we function on lines similar to other established literary festivals across the country, but with the difference that we have purely non-fiction authors here in action in Nagpur. Each year, we have a central theme to the festival, this year's theme being non-fiction for inclusion. And in line with this theme, we have various authors and topics that instill these values in us. Most importantly, VLF focuses on increasing the tribe of non-fiction readers like you. Welcome readers to Vidarbha Literary Festival. Diversity and inclusion, thankfully, are no longer corporate jargons for lip service and forced compliance. Now is a good time to be alive as we see the best of humanity waking up to diversity and living inclusion in the everyday. To me, inclusion is acknowledging the labels and looking way beyond them to really see the people and stories and ambition beyond it. To me, inclusion is the slow dissolving of labels under the light of knowledge. We begin our day with our first author, who writes about India's favorite subject, politics. Former associate editor of The Telegraph, Mr. Rasheed Kidwai, is a regular political commentator on various television networks and radio programs. He is a political analyst and tracks the trajectories of political parties in India. Interested in narrative nonfiction, he researches Indian history for its complexities and intrigues of human nature. After Sonia, a biography, and 24 Akbar Road, Mr. Kidwai explores arguably India's most intriguing power family, the Scindias, in his latest book, The House of Scindias. With political intrigue, palace conspiracies, cutthroat rivalry, and an ugly public feud, betrayals and property wars fought in courts, and siblings that do not look eye to eye, the Scindias make tantalizing headlines. With a wealth of information about the Gwalior royals, The House of Scindias is their most definitive and revealing biography. Exploring the book today, we have our moderator, Priyanka Kothari, a stay-at-home mom of two. She's a cosmetic technology graduate and a skincare educator. She's actively involved in various with various NGOs and social work, and she's an active patron of VLF. I request Priyanka to usher our author, Mr. Rasheed Kidwai, on stage.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you everybody for coming around, and good morning to everybody. First of all, I would like to congratulate for this amazing, intriguing book, Tell It All. And let us just get directly to questions because we're running 5 minutes late, it looks like. So 24 Akbar Road, Neta Abhineta, Sonia the Biography, Ballad, and many more such books. So authoring a book, did it come as a natural level up from a political writer or journalist?
Thank you, Priyanka. First of all, before I respond, I want to profusely thank the organizers of VLF, all the volunteers. I think I've been to several Lit Fest, but I must say this that here it was a very different kind of experience, a very pleasant experience. There's a lot of warmth. There is a lot of what do you call that, apnapan, which is there, and in every organizers have taken a very minute, care about everything. And I was deeply touched the way, VLF accorded importance to the librarians, because many times we don't give that kind of importance. We give a lot of importance to, professors and teachers. So I think librarians also deserve that kind of attention. So full marks to you, Sachin, and everyone. I think, so I feel very good about it. Thank you very much. So now I'll come to, I am essentially a political journalist. I was working with the Telegraph, and I never thought that I would get into writing and all. I think we all say that many times the success is, woman plays a big role in success. So in my case, what happened, this I'm talking about 90s, a computer come, but it was very expensive. So my wife, she bought me a computer and she said, you keep telling so much about politicians and all, why don't you write something about it? And then some offer came, and I think at that time, Sonia Gandhi had joined formal politics, and people either liked her or didn't like her, all kind of things were there. So I was very inquisitive because I thought that, what is this person like? So, and I got into it, and of course, since I was at that point of time, every newspaper has a beat system that you give some area of specialization where you cover that day-to-day thing. So I was, that point of time, I was covering Congress party. So then I made an attempt. So it was an independent account of hers, which came out in 8-10 languages, and there was supposed to be a movie was also to be made on her with Monica Bellucci to act as this thing, but I think Congress party and she got quite nervous about it, and there was some legal case, nothing to do with me, but so it didn't materialize. But then I got into, then I realized, to answer Priyanka specifically, that basically, we all are as Indians, we are very much interested in politics, but we don't have that kind of thing. There are books, that books are more in terms of hagiography. They're written for or against. So they are not critically evaluated. Whereas, when we go to buy something, any consumer good, washing machine, we do so much of research. And Amazon, and we go to shop, we make this thing. And when it's about destiny, so we don't have that kind of informed choice. So modesty prevents me from saying, but all my books, attempts have been to, bring some kind of thing. Politicians, like all of us, are good, essentially good. They are, of course, their actions sometimes are not so good. They are persons of, flesh and blood. They make errors, all kind of things. So it's a kind of, I try to be neutral, dispassionate, वो जो क्या होता है, साक्षी भाव से लिखता हूँ.
Objectively लिखते हैं. And I must congratulate, because I think it must be very difficult, since you know all the ins and outs of everybody and still be so objective. You just go there and don't reveal it, or you just go there and let the reader decide, and you're not trying to put opinions on us, which is quite credible. So after reading this book, I discerned that our Honorable Mr. Eknath Shinde is not the only Shinde in the political terrain. So can you elaborate on how a non-Kshatriya Shindes went on to become the Royal Scindias?
I think it's a fascinating story. It's also a story of destiny. I mean, if you're a believer, how God has a way of acting and how it helps. So Mr. Ranoji, who was a founder of 300 years ago, he was actually just a farmer, a Shinde, as you have rightly pointed out, and he got into that a kind of services of Peshwa at that point of time. He was not even a kind of bodyguard, because the bodyguard at that point of time was a very actually higher position. So one night actually Peshwa had gone somewhere, and he had kept his shoes outside. So this person, Ranoji, who was a very young, I think of 18 or of that age, at that time there was some practice in that part of, what we call it Maharashtra now, that they would, poison a person by putting something in the shoe. They would put some bichu kind of thing, so that, the person, the moment you wear your slipper, you would die. So what Ranoji did was, in order to protect it, those shoes, and he was feeling very sleepy, it was midnight, and also he kept it in that, whatever that jacket he was wearing, he kept it inside, and he slept like that. So when Peshwa came out, he couldn't find his slipper, and then he discovered that this man, when he shouted, so he took out literally from his heart and gave. So then he became an Angrakshak, and then there was no going back. So this is how, the Scindias are not Chandramukhi or Suryavanshi or Chandravanshis. They are actually very, commoners and all. I think politically also they use, sometimes they call themselves as royal, and sometimes they say we are, backwards. So this is actually an interesting story.
They use it to their advantage, it looks like. So Scindias have a very impressive run from the monarchy to the democracy. So what is that common streak in all of these Scindias which probably the other royal families don't have, and they have now not almost
I
non-existent.
think, Priyanka, you asked a very good question. I think the Sindhyas have a knack of, I mean, I'm saying without a kind of, value judgment, they have a knack of being on the right side of things. This is a fascinating thing. First, when I started doing research for this book, one thing struck me, and I think many in this hall would also be little surprised to know this, that when we say about, people benefiting politically, most in democracy, the first name comes, and rightly so, it comes from Gandhi's, Nehru Gandhi family. Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, Sanjay Gandhi, all of them. But you see, the persons who have benefit most, I mean, as you said, in this monarchy and then in democracy, are actually Sindhyas. You see, in terms of total number of days, there has not been a day in independent India when a member of Sindhya family has not been a member of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha or a state assembly. Now, there's been gap in Nehru family. And if you see it in the world, actually, there is no parallel where, because a lot of royals and we know the dynasties have been there much longer. But Scindia family has provided continuity. So at the time, 1947, Jivaji Rao, George Scindia becomes Rajya Pramukh, who's like a governor. And then 1957, that's also an interesting story. So if you read that book, you will find it fascinating, that actually Rajmata Scindia becomes a Congress MP. And she fights 52 and 62, two elections on the Congress ticket. And she's consistently, if you read her autobiography and general perception also, she was very anti Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, everyone. Now imagine somebody being so much anti, I'm not speaking from a political position, I'm just saying as a statement of fact, that somebody who was so vehemently opposed to a particular, if we consider it as a ideologies, that you serve two terms as member of parliament of that particular party, and you attend house and defend that party and do it. So this is what I'm saying. It's quite a remarkable trait that has continued. You see, we can disagree on the thing that whether it has a ulterior motive or not. That is for politicians to decide. But I think they are very comfortable about this aspect.
Yeah, so probably they have this DNA of politics, because like you just mentioned, the Raoji, he supported, and Jivaji Rao also supported the British. Raoji supported the Mughals, then he supported the British, and then like Rajmata was first part of Congress and then BJP. Same Madhurao Scindia ji, he was a dependent BJP and then he went to Congress, and now Jyotiraditya. So going from Congress to BJP, so what is the ideological commitment of the Scindias? What do you have to say about, and why do they keep on
I think you have asked
changing?
a very trick question. No, actually, on a very serious note, of course, she's absolutely right. See, the history is history of Sindhyas is very different from story of Sindhyas. Let me make this elaborate. For instance, whatever you have said is spot on, and I'm not speaking as a biographer who perhaps has turned sympathetic to them or so. But circumstances actually shape. We know that in day-to-day life, our responses also are shaped by circumstances. And again, you will find because I am basically I fancy myself as a storyteller. Qissa goi, the art of telling stories. I may not be a good speaker, but in book I have made an attempt. So what happened was that the Sindhyas had a lot of wealth. The wealth that like we know today also, there is a known income and there is a unknown income. So there was a lot of unknown income that was there. So they used to have a kind of thing called bijak. Which other thing too, you can track where the money is kept, because every time a ruler died, there was used to be vacuum till the other coronation takes place and all. So normally it was passed on. Just before, 1857, I've written all this account. What happened that somehow that bijak was lost. So the Sindhyas were very much anxious that where is that whole lot of money has come. And to your surprise, you see, so there was a British Army colonel who discovered that and got that, he got them that khazana, a part of it. Some of it is still missing actually, as the legend says. So, gold coins worth 2.5 crore were discovered by the British and given it to them. Of course, the Sindhyas rewarded that colonel and so the loyalty, that part you were saying, it came from various things. And of course, there was a sense of, protection and all was there. This is not in defense of this. Then again, that, succession part, the British were following doctrine of lapse. So many a times, the Scindia heir were adopted. And where were they adopted? I mean, an account has it that, once a particular ruler was dying and there was no successor and there was a whole fear that the British would take over. So the Prime Minister, that Wazir, he went out in the field and saw there were some children were playing marbles, and one person was very good at, hitting that thing, and he was picked up and adopted and crowned. So, I mean, we all talk about bloodline. So all of things you need to take a holistic account. I mean, all those things that you are mentioning is very much part of it. But this is also happens that a lot of it is, circumstances that shaped that responses. That's what I'm saying. The history of Scindias is very different from the story of Scindia.
Definitely. So, coming to that, like what you said, probably there were reasons other than just power, how Madhav Rao Scindia ji, and there's a rift between Rajmata and Madhav Rao Scindia ji. So what was the main reason? Was it Sardar Angre's much interference, or I read somewhere in Tavleen Singh's Darbar that for any royals, Congress was a safer option. Was it that, or just that they were ideologically different?
I think it was a combination of all that. हमें इन सब चीज़ों को मतलब एक मानवीय दृष्टिकोण से देखना चाहिए. I think Madhav Rao Scindia, who was educated at Oxford, etc., and all, was very westernized in his outlook. He didn't like the way that Jansang was using in a way Rajmata Scindia in terms of procuring a lot of money from, because Rajmata Scindia was very much devoted to the cause of Bharatiya Jansang and all, and of course being in opposition, Jansang needed money. So there were a lot of, I mean, Madhav Rao himself told me that they used to have actually kuan, they're full of jewels and gold and jewelry, and he said all these things vanished. There is also another aspect of it which I have not mentioned much in the book, but many of us, because we go through it, these kind of experiences of life, so we may be able to understand. See, Rajmata was also a very lonely person. I mean, she didn't have a very, good, I mean, she had a married life, but the two people were very different temperamentally in terms of taste and all that. I mean, when she got married, Jivaji Rao Scindia, took her to all those fancy shops, and they, the Tosha Khana, they had so much of, so she could not find a simple cotton sari. She wanted to wear cotton sari, so it was not there. And she would wear, cotton saris, and the cotton saris were a kind of, at that time, in the Scindia aristocracy and all, it was like infra dig. They didn't like that. So there were several such, they were temperamentally very different. A neglected person, I think, ideologically also, so she lead on Sardar Angre. I think there is a full caricature. I won't just go on talking about Sardar Angre. It's a very interesting character, but he influenced her. The person, so his, I mean, her differences with Madhav Rao were also of very of human feelings. Perhaps both were responsible. Madhav Rao used to. Madhav Rao was very friendly to her. She used to call him Bhaiya, and Bhaiya would discuss his, girlfriends and everything to her. They're a very open kind of mother and son relationship. But when he saw that money is going, and I think he was a Scindia, he realized that it's his money, and he tried to check in. There was an ideological thing. Heart of heart, Scindia was a liberal, though he also became a Jansang MP first time, but he was not comfortable with that kind of ideology. And that's what he told me a number of times. So it was all, a combination of all this. And also, see, when this emergency took place, that was I have written a graphic account. It was Yashodhara Raje's birthday at Rajpur Road in Delhi, near Delhi University. The celebrations were going on. Someone tipped them off that all the leaders are being arrested, Rajmata. So she imagined daughter's birthday. I think it was 21st birthday or 18th birthday. But anyway, so they just left everything, cake and everything, and of course it all has a trauma. Then she was going to Nepal because Madhav Rao had fled to Nepal from Calcutta. That's also a very interesting story. And he invited her. He said, "You join in Nepal." So Rajmata was going, and she was literally some feet away from Nepal border when this Sardar Angre confronted her. कि आप ये क्या कर रही हैं? All that your historical role, your duty, desh ke liye, all those things he did. There was a kind of exchange took place, and Rajmata writes that she saw the merit and she came back. So there was a division that happened between mother and son. It was quite traumatic, I think, on both sides, and we must look at it not in terms of black and white, but shade of grey.
Also, of course, we should be doing that. But then there was this rumor also that it was by design. I mean, like, jo bhi hai, whosoever wins, the Scindia is winning. Was it? I mean, what?
Yes. I think on that there is no difference. These are again, I am saying, people act as per instincts, political instincts, survival instincts, and all these things. There, I have seen several elections subsequently. Also, there used to be when the family was on the both side of political spectrum. That is, like Madhura was in Congress, Rajmata was in BJP, and Vasundhara was in BJP, Yashodhara was in BJP, Jyotiraditya was in Congress, and Yashodhara was in BJP. Though there was always say, so in the public speech and all, they would not, attack each other. They'll say, "Mahal ka samman rakhiyega." So Gwalior ki janta, there used to be appeal. So that itself was a signal that you have to be just you have to be a Scindia, and in order to win. In fact, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who all of us have a lot of respect, he was actually misled. He never realized that he would be pitted against Madhura Scindia from Gwalior in 1984. And Rajmata was very hurt because Rajmata had given her word to Atalji that you would win. And then that election turned out to be quite one-sided, and Vajpayee ji lost that election. So this kind of grip they had. So they always had this thing that palace is important. And I think, there is an illusion, I am using this word, there is an illusion of grandeur. We Scindias are, after all we are Scindias, that's it.
So now that we're talking about Gwalior, what is the connection of Godse and Gwalior? Like, it has been traced, the gun was traced to Gwalior, and then now there is a Godse temple there. So what is
Priyanka, I thought you were my friend. Look, actually, this is a sensitive matter, and this is also a controversial matter. And there are 2-3 things I have said. You see, in this book also, I must clarify that whatever I have written largely, it's all, is being attributed, it's with references, because it's very tempting, and in all my books I have tried to do this. There's always a temptation, you get to know so many things about affairs, about scandals and all, but I think, first of all, we are accountable to our readers, our conscience, and of course the subject we are writing. So I have taken great care. I have mentioned about this thing, but I have quoted, attributed Tushar Gandhi and several others who had said, I think it's a pity and it's a matter of, I would say, national shame that Gandhi assassination case was not, probed the way it should have been. In fact, this is a very glaring this thing. We all say that we are very, developed and that kind of country, but several occasions, even I have followed Rajiv Gandhi assassination case, it was also botched up investigation. It was looked like it was an open and shut case. So we tend to mess up things, and of course Gandhi assassination thing was messed up. The pistol was of course found from, was taken from Gwalior, but whether I am not so sure whether, the Scindias had a hand. They say the ADC had it. It was actually a thing came from Ethiopia. The gun that pistol had killed many other people. Okay, so it's like one pistol, and so there's a lot of mystery. I think it's not too late. We need to have this kind of oversight, truth commission, those kind of commissions to be there to get it.
No.
I said that Ethiopia, the Ethiopian gun, it has a history. It had killed some other people also earlier.
And
So it was sold and resold.
It was sold and resold, and that's how it landed in India and Gwalior. So, like Britain, Scindia have their own share of royal feuds. So, but thankfully they are not washing their dirty linens in public like the British. But how welcome is Jyotiraditya in BJP with Vasundhara and Vasundhara ji and Yashodhara in BJP, and in the context of now that the parties are going for one family, one ticket. So how are they? How is
I think there's a tricky thing. I think they are very dignified. When Jyotiraditya joined the BJP, the both aunts referred to congratulatory notes and all. I mentioned all those things, but there is of course kind of the discomfort is there. We know how Varun Gandhi and Manika are treated in the BJP, so there are certain dynamics and all are there. Vasundhara has come up in her own way in politics. She's deserved. In fact, I would this is a little controversial to say, but we all are against Vanshwad dynasty culture and in democracy, and understandably it's reprehensible. It's anti-democracy also, I would say. But if you look at the statistics, if you look at the women representation in parliament, in Lok Sabha, it's very, very glaring. It's very little. It's just 5%, 7%. And if you leave out, Dinah's women, then the percentage would be, less than 2%. This is not a justification, but I'm saying that dynasty culture, it's maybe very bad, but it has, helped, it has empowered women. I have written another book about a Congress politician, Mohsina Kidwai. I mean, it's her autobiography, I assisted her. And I was surprised in the independent India, since first elections took place, the number of Muslim women in Lok Sabha, I'm not talking about Rajya Sabha, was just about 20. Out of that, half of them were Dinas. So if you look at the, I mean, if you just do the numbers, it was 16% Muslims and 8%, Muslim women in India. You see, 20 out of 9,000 Lok Sabha MPs, over 9,000 MPs. So I'm saying then you realize that dynasty culture is not all that bad. In terms of it brings some sense of empowerment. I'm sorry, I'm becoming a very unpopular person in saying so, but I mean it. These are the things you realize from a practical side.
Yeah, these are the stats talking.
Stat. So, so where were we? We just
no, I just like how welcome is Jyotiraditya in.
So I think it's a very thing. I'll just so. I mean, again, this is I have not mentioned a source. When Yashodhara's son was getting married in Gwalior, so the wedding was to take place, and it was in winter. It was to take place in that palace, Jaivilas Palace. Somebody in the early evening, afternoon, somebody watered that garden.
That is pretty petty.
And she had to move to, take arrangement and go to a hotel. I have written that, and it's gone uncontested. So when I met Yashodharaji, she kept asking, she said, who told you this story? So I'm saying all these things happen. Now, we don't know who watered that lawn, but it caused a lot of discomfort to Yashodhara Raje. So all these things are there.
But
I don't know whether it answers.
But I mean, I saw a few video where Yashodhara was like, she said, we welcome him, Jyotiraditya, to BJP. So are they, now that he's in BJP, do you think they're coming together?
I think, again, I said, they are very dignified and they know they are Scindia, so they won't make their public. But we must also remember there is a whole chapter on that legal issues. There is you can't imagine the amount of money, the Scindias have. The Scindias do not know how much money do they have. So, as all the cases are going on since 1964, there is the out-of-court settlement effort are being going on. So, it's all linked. If Mr. Amit Shah is able to, get this kind of out-of-court settlement, then of course there will be greater harmony if things, continue to be there. Because, I don't want to get into those laws. I think there is a book also there, about patriarchy in society and all. I think there is some discussion on it.
Yes.
So we have a very, thing. So what happens in the case of monarchy and all? It's the male here who takes it all. So the women don't get, or they get very little. So basically, I think
but it's about the Rajmata's will also, where she didn't.
Yeah, so everything is in the court kacheri. So so nobody they know that they are so wealthy, but they don't have it. I think a lot of it's a complex thing. Human feelings and also all these disputes and political
sides. Egos also come.
It's basically, one thing, I'll be very happy to actually make it more interactive. See, after writing this and going through it, one thing occurred to me at least, they are also very, they may be Sindhiyas, but they have the same problems that we all face. They may be wealthy, but, all those things about, Saas Bahu struggle, that kind of disquiet, having bad, relations with, some of the, so to say, common and poor people, I would say, I'm not being philosophical, they are much better off than perhaps, them, in a way.
So they don't really get that advantage of being royals, like not always.
I mean, I just let me tell you one. So when the Rajmata and Madhavrao died within a span of few months actually. When Rajmata was in Apollo Hospital, she was in her last this thing. Madhavrao would go and he would just
Sit there.
hold her hand and read Hanuman Chalisa. And Vasundhara ji told me that she was there all the time. I mean the two daughters with Rajmata, but every time this Madhavrao would walk in, there would be somebody who's like totally bedridden and all, but there would be
Some activity.
a kind of her face would lit up, or there was some signal that as if she was recognized. Again, this is nothing to do with, I think, patriarchy, but this is what it
The
was.
love.
So now, I mean, you wonder that why, all the time when they were alive and active and healthy, they couldn't unite. They united at the, very last moment.
moments of
Perhaps
the
she could not hear what Mother-in-law was saying or, praying for her. It makes you
So,
feel very
So that's
sad.
when we put our egos first and
Precisely, yeah.
relationships baad mein. So Madhav Rao aspired, like now I think Jyotiraditya is also probably aspired to be the PM, and he was quite a favorite of Sonia ji. So how different would Congress position be if he was still around?
I think that's history has no if and buts. But I think one thing is there. This is my own theory. I think the Scindias are very conscious of their role, a historical role. The Scindias who are part of Marathas also as once upon a time. They're very conscious that they were not able to control Delhi. I mean, didn't become direct rulers of Delhi Darbar, Delhi Sultanate, or whatever you want to say it. And in the post-independent India also, though Rajmata never, of course, held a public office, she did not become a chief minister or minister or a governor or a vice president. Madhav Rao had a great potential to become Prime Minister. I mean, he didn't live that long, but I think he could have been a challenger to Dr. Manmohan Singh in 2004 or later on, 2009 or 2012, whichever period we are talking about. So I think there is an unfinished agenda that Scindias have in mind, and somewhere secretly, privately, Mr. Jyotiraditya Scindia may be wanting to do that. I think his parting with Congress was emotional. At the same time, it was, of course, a calculated move also. He realized in a very simple terms that either the Congress was not willing to, or for the matter Gandhis, that being Sonia and Rahul, they were not willing to make him a chief minister, or they were incapable of. So in both ways, he thought that his time is up. And that's how he left the Congress. Rahul Gandhi is a complex, some other occasions we'll talk about it. I think he just having seen his father, grandmother, and of course his whole legacy, he doesn't have that kind of hunger to be somebody. I mean, he could have become in Manmohan Singh's time or something like that. And I think he expected all these people who are along with him, Jyotiraditya included, to have a sense of detachment towards politics. कि क्या है मंत्री बन जाओगे तो क्या कर लोगे? How things are going to change. Like you may have seen, it's maybe a facade he's putting on, but I'm just saying, I think all these people who were close to him, they got fed up with that. And I think Scindia, it had a very huge psychological impact the way he lost 2019 Lok Sabha election from Guna, because he didn't expect to lose in Guna. I went around and checked, and this would interest you, this is not there in the book, but people thought that, they are voting for Modi, but Maharashtra to jeet jayenge. So, and it turned out to be everyone voted for Modi and Scindia lost. So Scindia was very, and I think Jyotiraditya felt that he held Rahul Gandhi more responsible for his defeat than Narendra Modi. So he thought because Rahul versus Modi and people preferred Modi, and so I lost because of him. And I think there are a lot of things. Both of them were there. They are of same age group, same school,
Friends,
same
yeah.
college. So it happens.
So my question was like, was Madhav Rao Scindia ji was the prime minister we never had? Like,
I think one can say that very safely. He had a lot of ideas. He had a lot of access to. I think Sonia Gandhi used to really value. She came new in politics, and that time Mother of India was a leader of opposition, and I had a lot of interaction with him at that time. I even privy to. I mean, this is a personal thing, but they were on first name basis, and they were very because he was contemporary of Rajiv Gandhi also. And in Mother of India, she had one person who she could ask anything, and he would give a very that kind of advice. In fact, a lot of people, like, I don't know how many of you people would remember them, but a lot of palace guards are there in the Congress, like R.K. Dhawan, M.L. Fatehdaar, Winston George. All of them, Arjun Singh later on, they all resisted. They didn't like Mother Rao because Mother Rao was one who could walk in. Again, I'm just saying, since a personal, I was sitting with him and Sonia Gandhi's call came and she said, okay, let's have coffee. And he went to his house. I don't think this privilege anybody in the Congress has or had even today. So it was just like a very, close friend and all. I think Amitabh, that's another book I've written a lot about Amitabh Bachchan. I think she had that kind of thing. Rahul and Priyanka used to call him, I still call him Mamu, which is in Awadh means Mama. So they were also very close family. That's another fascinating story.
I would like the readers to explore this. Let's not. I think that's an interesting story they have there. Sheila Teft of Chicago Tribune, while covering the elaborate wedding of Chitrangada, Madhavrao Sindhyaji's daughter. So she mentioned that India is still enthralled by the feudal roots. So what is, like you already mentioned though, that, but what is with the dynasties, and do they still have their shine on? Like,
I think there is a great fascination. I think look at the way Americans go to England and they go and see all those palaces, and so there is a great fascination. I think we also have a great fascination with royals and royal family and how do they live, and we always tend to look at, when you say we, a number of people and larger than life. Again, Mother Rao used to tell me that, he used to wear different hat. He said, look, sometime if I behave like a commoner in Gwalior and Chambal region, they would not like it. So, there he liked being addressed as Maharaj or Shrimant or whatever. At another place in Delhi or in Mumbai or in England, he would want to be somebody calling him on first name. So he was very comfortable. So differently, he would behave differently to different places. So I think Sindhyas are very, status conscious. Like I said, in the public meetings, they would say, Gwalior ki Janta, Gwalior ki Praja. No, this is democracy, it's no Praja. But then if people are not objecting, why do you blame that?
so we have, we are still besotted by the royals generally. So Sindhyas, before I go to that, who's your favorite Sindhya?
Well, I think I'm very, you see, I had a different notion before taking this assignment and writing a book. I find it both actually Rajmata and daughter Vasundhara as very fascinating because they work very hard, they work against the tide, they face a lot of, humiliation, embarrassment. There is one thing that I would want to mention from this book, and again, I've mentioned it again in the source way. So what happened when Rajmata was in jail, and imagine Rajmata, and she was also in jail along with Gayatri Devi was also in jail, in Tihar jail, and the conditions were very bad. So both daughters were making a lot of effort. That Usha Raje, who's in Nepal, she used those Nepal's royal family. They were making all kind of efforts. So in the process, one day Vasundhara was asked to meet a minister in the Indira Gandhi government, an influential minister. And the minister called her to a five-star hotel. Delhi had very few five-star hotels. And there he made a indecent proposal, okay, to her. And she knows this. She's told me. And he said, your mom will set free, no problem at all, leave it to me. And so I'm just saying this also happened. And this happened to a Sindhya. I couldn't reveal that. Though I am aware of who the person was a very colorful minister in Indira Gandhi's cabinet. I can also give a clue that he's no longer in this world. But she's not named. If she had allowed me, I would have used that name. But so that's how it is. So again, this thing that women face all kind of harassment and challenges which men don't feel. So I would put both Rajmata and Vasundhara in that category.
Yeah, and I think Vasundhara has got closest to what Rajmata was when I was reading. Like
Yeah, she's very, I mean, I would say firebrand. And imagine a place like Rajasthan, which was again very kind of male-centric, patriarchal and this thing, to become a chief minister there and all.
Twice.
There was a lot of hype. I mean, again, having covered, the politics from very close quarters, many politicians, like, I mean, many individuals drink. Drinking is not thing. But about her, that slogan came, 8 p.m., no CM. So about so nobody asked the same thing about
Men,
Bhagwant
they
Mann.
never question the men.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So there is a there's also sexism at at full display, and we just take it very normally.
So now again, you mentioned the Nepal royals twice. So what is the connection of the royals of Nepal and the royals of Scindia and even the Devyani incident that happened?
I think I mentioned that the whole massacre took place because in the sense, she was a central piece there. I think the Scindias have a very close association with Ranas there. So they are, there are a lot of marriages and so they are
interlinked
there.
marriages. So, please tell us about your new book now, the leaders, politicians, and citizens that you so gracefully gifted me. I would like to show the audience. And thank you. He bought this as a gift for me. So, this is the 2022 book, Leaders, Politicians, and Citizens.
So I think this is an account of 50 people who are no longer in this world, and it's an assortment of people I have known or I have covered or this thing. There's some very interesting people are there. Of course, there are some known people like Dr. APJ Kalam, Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, Indira Gandhi, Sheila Dikshit,
And Chandra Swami.
So I have also this thing mentioned a chapter on Chandra Swami, on Mr. Q. I think many of you know who Mr. Q was. Kutrochi, who was in this thing of Bofors scandal. There's some human rights activists. So all of them, those people who are kind of Lal Dinga, Phulan Devi. I've written an account of how, once Phulan Devi went to France, there was a movie was being made on her. So she was in a limousine and she was going in Paris, and suddenly she saw that somebody was selling watermelon. So she started shouting, "Roko, roko, roko." So there was a translator with her. And in that car, so there was the driver or pilot or whoever, he had a cabin to himself. So he stopped and she bought those watermelon and she started eating it. So then all floor got dirty and she was sitting cross-legged. Also that driver started shouting that word. So she said, "Nahi, nahi, isko aise hi khate." So, again, this is, we have a image of Phulan Devi as a ruthless person, one who, killed and got killed. Of course, this is all factually correct. But then again, she had a very child in her.
Yeah.
And somehow she was very, spontaneous. Many times I saw her in parliament when she became a member of parliament. So she would talk in a very manner. I'm not being sympathetic to her, but I'm just saying. So we need to know people around us or who have been there.
The human side of the.
Yeah, but it's human side doesn't mean that we are just giving a clean chit to everybody. You see, I'm very kind of sometimes critical or harsh also about individuals, but I think there are certain matter we need to know. As I had said in the beginning, we need to know our politicians as politicians of flesh and blood, rather than just being, reverential about it, or for the matter, very cynical and dismissive.
So before I open the floor for question and answers, just last questions, like how difficult is political journalism, or what advice would you give to the budding journalists? For me, it's like walking on eggshells.
I think all professions have, challenges, and journalism is no different. But I think if you have a kind of conscience, a sense of, accountability, I think it helps, because accountability should be towards the readers, not so much about subjects. If you write about in praise of or critical, I think it serves no purpose. Of course, if you are, see in India, of course, unfortunately, why I'm saying in India, because it's compared to Britain and in America, which are, there are a lot of biographies and autobiographies are written and people are encouraged. Like for instance, Sonia Gandhi has so much of, archives, those papers of not only of Nehru, of Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, but it's not just about Sonia Gandhi. Many people don't share that kind of information which is can be of public interest and academic interest, etc. So we don't have that culture. Then I think people take most 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10. Politicians don't like criticism. I mean, in this book after it was published, so I can imagine, and I have no problems with it, that Sindhyas are not able to endorse it. But at the same time, they are very, some of them, of course not all of them, were very touchy. Oh, why did you write this? So I can't be, selective, because I mean, human life is my life, your life, everyone's life is, we all have made mistakes, we may have committed some wrong and all. So, I mean, in heart of heart, we know it. So they are no different. This is a bit of a challenge. But if you are worldly, if you want to look for this, so I just give you one anecdote about, so when Rajiv Gandhi died, so somebody had approached Mr. Rajiv Shukla, who is now a very big politician, became a minister and all, to write a biography of Rajiv Gandhi. He knew Rajiv Gandhi quite well and all. So he went to again meet Madhavrao Sindhia to take his advice. So Madhavrao said, Ki, Dekho, Rajiv, you are very, that time he was a journalist. He said, Rajiv, you are very politically ambitious. And Rajiv Gandhi is dead. So you will be writing against all those who are living. So they won't let you, survive. So he said, at that time, I think he had got some advance of 20,000 or so. He said he went and returned it to Penguin. That I don't want to write. So if you have those considerations, then of course, but I think it gives you a kind of, satisfaction. Of course, all biographies and account is all incomplete, because human life is very big and complex, etc. But even if we get a glimpse of it, I think as a writer, you feel satisfied.
Thank you so much. I would invite anybody to have, if they have questions.
History, because we have only talked about the current Sindhyas. The generally accepted story is that because the Sindhyas did not turn against the British in 1857 and support Nana Sahib Peshwa, Zeenat Mahal and so on, and close the gates of Gwalior Fort to Lakshmibai of Jhansi, that was the turning point where the War of Independence or the mutiny or whatever you want to call it failed. Is that a factually correct story, or is it just an anecdote, a myth?
Well, I think there are, again, as we say, there are no ifs and buts that what had happened. I think 1857, purely from academic point of view, of course, from a nationalist point of view, it's a different narrative. It was a slightly complex thing. Over years, it has evolved, and we have more and more. We are more certain about that it was a very pan-Indian, a very determined bid to dislodge. It was there in parts and all. But I think the role of Sindhyas is also largely, one can say, was negative in terms of from a nationalist point of view. But at the same time, it was very complex because what happened, the Sindhya army was also fragmented. Part of it turned Baghi in the sense that joined hand with Rani Lakshmibai. Part of it had actually stayed neutral, and Sindhya himself had moved from Gwalior to Agra, and he had taken refuge. Look at that British, what did they do? And this I'm talking about because it's mentioned in that Darbar policy, that document of the Sindhyas family and all. The British never trusted, Sindhyas, or for the matter any Indian ruler who helped them. Because every time on that correspondence that used to take place, so either they will give ammunition or they will, give guns. They won't give it together. In fact, the Murar, that thing, that military station they had, it was restored to them. It happened in 1857. They were restored in some time in 1880s, about 30 years later. So imagine this they did to loyal subjects. So I think it's very difficult to actually, get into, the mind of that point of time. Of course, I can say it's very tempting to say that, yeah, if Sindhyas had sided, the history would have been different. But I think at that point of time, we were very disorganized. Perhaps as much as the Indian opposition today.
The question I have is, we have several political dynasties today, right? And the motivation in the next gen is very different. Like some take it for granted, and some are real street fighters with a hunger. And from the conversation that I gather today, the Scindias seem to have some hunger in the belly. How does that happen? Why do they have hunger in the belly, whereas other next gen politicians don't?
I think this is what I'm saying. If you have an illusion of grandeur, you think that you are different, you have a goal, and you have an unfinished agenda, that, sets you apart. You may say that this is very, it's very mean, it can be very purposeful, but this is also, they are very, I'm just telling you, like, in life, you need to be clever. I mean, in terms of a worldly sense. I mean, I don't know how many of you have seen Pathan movie. I'll ask you to watch it. Why no? Not because it's 5 out of 10 kind of ordinary story. But I found it very fascinating that, how clever is Shah Rukh Khan. The way he has built that kind of narrative. We live in a very, unfortunately, at least perception was, polarized kind of thing. Right wing, left wing, and cinema, in Bollywood is totally different. The smartly thing that he has packaged it. So he packaged it very well. If Rahul Gandhi can package half of what Shah Rukh Khan did in real, politics, he would be a different person. So working hard, perhaps Rahul has worked very hard at, this Bharat Jodo Yatra, etc. But again, so you need to be very clever. You need not be the best. I think the best people, like, there was a book title by B.K. Nehru saying that the nice guys finish second. So, it happens actually. And about dynasty, I want to just add one thing. Again, I'm not saying in defense of dynasty, root cause of dynasty politics is India is electoral malpractices, corruption. You see, we have a very corrupt system of elections. Whether it's assembly elections or parliament elections, there is a poll expenses ceiling by election commission. It's been enhanced, but it's about 50 lakhs in assembly and 75 lakh to 80 lakhs for parliament election. We know, everyone sitting in this hall knows that everybody, without fail, whichever political party, they at least spend 10 times or more. Where does the money come from? Okay, so it's all black money. Then how is it managed? That is where you need a family member to trust. And it's a long thing, and that's how this generation next also comes up. So there is so much of money management is required. I just give you an anecdotal account. One day I was sitting with the chief minister of Congress party, and it was around Diwali time, and he was very upset. So I said, what happened? He said, "Arey, wo ek mithai ka dabba chori ho gaya." So I said, I'm sorry, I'm just going to name him also. So it was Mr. Ajit Jogi. So I said, Jogi ji, क्या problem है? उसमें क्या मिठाई थी? मतलब वो काजू कतली थी, क्या थी? He said, अरे नहीं, तुम नहीं जानते हो, वो मिठाई उसके अंदर वो सोने की मूर्तियां रखी हुई थी. And the रसोइया took it away and vanished. The cook. Okay, so this is one just anecdotal account I'm saying. No, he could not, as a chief minister also, he could not lodge an FIR. He could not tell it. After mithai ka dabba churana is not in that sense a glaring offense. So this I'm just giving you anecdotal, a glimpse of it. So there is so much of, so unless we have some kind of state funding of election or something like that, this will continue. This is not a justification. This is just an explanation that why the politicians are all those, House of Karunanidhis and Badals and Abdullahs and Yadavs and all go for this, because it's very comforting. You are dealing with so much money. If somebody just walks away, you can't even lodge a police case.
Unfortunately, these are the only questions we could take here in this session. But fortunately, Mr. Kidwai is available for a candid conversation down in the lawn after this session for whoever would be interested. And I'm sure we can't wait to get our hands on the book now. Scindias make up for a good topic for a book, and they take up the entire day if we decide to discuss them. I request Priyanka to felicitate Mr. Kidwai with a gift. This gift has been custom made for Mr. Kidwai by a very talented painter called Arnav Gaikwad from Alag Angle. Thank you so much, Mr. Kidwai. Thank you so much, Priyanka.